Start with the prayers. Om Sada Shiva
Samaarambam
Madhyam
Asmadacharya Paryantam
Vande
Guru Paramparam
Saraswati
Mastupyam
Varade
Vidyarambam Karishami
Siddhirabhatu me sada
Om Sahana
Bhavatu Sahano
Sahaviryam
Viryam
Karavavahem
Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishayi
Om
Shanti
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 Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum
vidhiyate.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Alright, so let's start. So last time we were seeing the evolution of the cosmos, and we saw that there are 4 stages. The first is the sukşma pañca bhutāni, which is the 5 subtle elements. Then the sukşma bhautikāni, the subtle elementals. Then the sthūla pañca bhutāni, which we will see today. The gross 5 elements are born, and from that the sthūla bhautikāni, which is the 5 elementals, are born. Now, we saw this last time. First from Maya, from Avyakta Maya, all the different 5 elements are born. In what form? They are in the subtle state. In their subtle nature, the subtle elements, they are born. Akashaha, Vayu, Tejaha, Apaha, and Prithvi. So we saw this last time. And from these, the bhautikani are born. What are the bhautikani? Born from the sattvic aspect of the elements. What is born from sattvic aspect of the elements?
The Jnanendriya.
The Jnanendriyas are born, each one correlating to one of the elements. And what else is born? The sattvic aspect.
Antakaran, all the inner equipment.
The
Mana, buddhi,
what we call
ego,
the
and
mind, the total mind. And that has 4 parts: the manaha, buddhi, ahankara, and chitta. Then next, the rajasa amsha, the rajasic aspect. What is born from the rajasic aspect of
karmendriyas.
Karmendriyas are born, and then
And the prana shakti, the prana.
the pancha prana, the 5 pranas. They are also born from the rajasic aspect of the 5 elements. Okay, so till here we saw, and now to this point we have seen 24 elements. Can you name them? What are they? The 24 elements?
The Pancha Jnanendriya, the Pancha Karmendriya, the Pancha Prana, and the Antakarana. 4.
5 more.
Tanmatras.
The tanmatras are the 5 subtle elements, the sukşma, pañca, bhutāni. Those 5 also we include, so they come in the beginning. So first the 5 subtle elements, from them the Jnanendriyas, the Antakarana, the Karmendriya, and the Pancha Prana. And if you add it all up, you get 24. Why are we talking about 24 items or 24 things here?
Because it was mentioned in the verse a Sanskrit word for 24. I'm forgetting the word.
Where was it mentioned?
In this text itself.
Yes, which part?
I think the Jagat Utpatti.
First line of this chapter, which said, Atha Chaturvimshati Tattvoutpatti
Chaturvimshati.
Prakaramaha. The author had said, I will now give the description of the creation of 24 tattvams. Chaturvimshati tattvam. So now we have finished those 24 tattvams. Okay?
Medhaji, your audio is not very clear. I don't know if it's the same for everyone. There's an echo and
Okay, just a minute. Okay. Is this little better?
maybe you can continue. We can.
Okay, so there's not much. I can't change this setup right now. So this is it. Okay.
I think it is better.
Okay. So all right. So now that we have finished the sukşma bhautikāni, now we have to move to the sthūla, pañca, bhutam, the 5 gross elements. Now, do you remember what this process is called? Converting it from subtle to the gross?
Panchikaranam.
Panchikaranam. So we are going to now see the Panchikaranam process. Okay, we can read this. Etesham panchatattvanam tamasam shat.
Etesham
Panchikrita panchatatvani bhavanti. Panchikaranam kathamiti chet. Etesham pancamahabhutanam tamasam shaswarupam. Ekamekam bhutam dvidha vibhajya. Ekamekam ardham prithak tushnim vyavastapya. Paramaparamartham chaturdha vibhajya. Swadharmanyeshu ardheshu. Svabhaga chatuštaya sanyojanam. Prapanchikaranam bhavati. So now this is how the 5 gross elements are created, and this process is called as Panchikaranam. Now, if you remember, we had finished the Sattvic Amsha and Rajasic Amsha of the 5 subtle elements. And what is left? The Tamasic aspect, the Tamas Amsha. Now, what is the power of Tamas? Do you remember? The Sanskrit word?
Dravya Shakti.
Dravya Shakti. And what is the English meaning of that?
Inertia.
Inertia, the power of inertia. So all of the material objects in the world that we see, the physical material objects, they are all born from this tamasic aspect of the 5 elements. All the 5 gross elements, they are all born from the tamasic aspect. Why? Because Dravya Shakti, they have the power of inertia. They are inert. They don't do much, right? They don't have the power to know. They don't have the power to act. So it is Dravya Shakti. Now, let us try to understand how this comes about. So we'll come back to this Sanskrit part. So the 5 elements are there. You can see it on the chart in the left side. So the 5 elements, and now these 5 elements are in the subtle form. Okay, they won't have a shape, but this is just for representation. So these 5 elements, what do? You take each one and divide it into half. So 50%, 50%, half, half, right? Now keep one half as it is and the other half divide it into 4 pieces. So you see now there is one block of 50% and then 4 blocks of 12.5%, right? So 4 blocks and the 50% block. Now those 4 blocks, the small pieces, each piece is distributed to the other 4 elements. That means the space element, each piece will go to each of the others. Okay, like this. So it will go on. And like this for all of them, all of the 12.5% pieces, all the small pieces, all of them will get distributed in this way. And finally, what do you get? You get something like this. And this is the gross element. So what you see on the right side is the gross element, the composition. So what we call a gross element is actually an alloy, a combination of the subtle elements. So you see the ratio for space, it is 50% space, 12.5 of air, 12.5 of fire, 12.5 earth, and 12.5 water. So half of its own element and 1/8 of the other 4, each of the other 4. And this mixing up, this is what is the conversion from the subtle to the gross. And this process is what is called as panchikaranam, the grossification. Is this clear? This ratio and how this happens, this part of it?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is what the author is trying to tell. Yeah.
Mitaji, the space is in the final block. The space is 2. So the space is 50% plus 25%. So that is 75%.
Portion?
In the final block, when we have. Okay, right. Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
There is no space in the small box. Yeah.
Yeah. Because all the 4 small boxes have been distributed to the other 4 elements. Okay, so this is what the author is telling in this line. So we'll just quickly see this. Etesham panchatattvanam tamasamshat. So among these 5 subtle elements, and from which aspect? The tamasamsha. From the tamasic aspect of these 5 elements, panchikrita panchatatvani bhavanti. The gross elements are born. How do we know it is gross elements? Because he uses the word panchikrita. Panchikrita means having undergone panchikaranam. So the elements that have undergone panchikaranam, those 5 elements, which is nothing but the sthūla pañca, those are born. And then he raises the hypothetical question himself. Panchikaranam katham iti chet. If it is asked, what is panchikaranam? Kathamiti chet means if it is asked. What is panchikaranam? Then he starts to explain. He says, Etesham pancha mahabhutana. From among these 5 elements. What 5 elements? We're still talking about the 5 subtle elements. From among these 5 subtle elements, from which portion? The tamasamsha swarupam. From the tamasic aspect, what do? Ekam ekam bhutam. Take each element that we saw, the 5 blocks. Take each element, dvidha vibhajya, and make it half. Divide it into half. Dvidha means 2. Vibhajya means to divide. So divide it into 2 portions. Then ekam ekam ardham prithak tushnim vyavasthapya. Ekam ekam ardham means each half, 150% portion. Prithak tushnim vyavasthapya. Keep it as it is. So the 50%, keep it as it is. Then aparam aparam ardham. The other half of each of them, chaturda vibhajya. Make it into 4 pieces. So that's what we did. The second block, you divide it into 4 little blocks, right? And then what? Swadharma anyeshu ardheshu. So its own half that is divided into the 4 pieces, that, what do? Swabhaga chatushtaya sanyojanam. Distributed among the other 4 elements. Sanyojanam means to distribute or recombine. So it is distributed among the other 4. And then this is panchikaranam. Tada panchikaranam bhavati. This is called as panchikaranam. And this is how the 5 gross elements are created. Okay. Any questions about this?
Om Vedhaji, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When we talk about space and you have given 12.5 of the elements, so there is 12.5 of earth element also in space? Is it to be understood like that?
Yes, all of them, all of the 5.
Yeah. No, because space is such a subtle thing, so I wanted to be sure. While Prithvi is a much more, less subtle than.
See the ratio.
Yeah,
how much ratio
that's
does
the
Earth have? Earth has 50% ratio. How much does space have? 12.5%.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Miss.
Oh, Medhaji, I need some clarifications. When we are speaking of space, air, fire here, there's a 50% space and 12.5% of other elements. Similarly, in Earth, we have 50% of Earth and others. So essentially, when we are converting it into the grossified aspect, so when we are speaking of the water, which is flowing over here, so we concede that 50% is the water element and 12.5% is space and water. 12.5% is earth and water. I mean, how is this relevant? Like we spoke of in sattvic and tamasic aspect, that they contributed to the power of locomotion or speech or XYZ. So how does this translate into the gross world?
This is just the process of creation. If you go to water and try to break it open and try to get the space and earth, you are not going to get it like that.
So what is the this creation? So how do we correlate it in our daily world, that 50% of space plus 1/8, in what elements or in what aspect of the gross things that we see, that we can say that there is more of space element in this and there is more of water element in this?
This is the 5 elements. The space that you see, the water that you see, this is the creation. This is how they are, is what Shastra tells us.
Okay.
It is not exactly applicable in your day-to-day life, nor is it very relevant for your Atmajnanam pursuit, but it is one of those topics that is discussed in Shastra quite regularly, because creation is one of those things that regularly comes up in Shastra. So we do just discuss it, but it is like you pointed out, not relevant in your day-to-day life. What will you do if you know that water has this proportions of the elements?
No, actually, I just wanted to understand in the gross world how these 5 elements can be perceived in what manner in the gross system. Suppose there is a table. So, I mean,
You
how
can't
do
look
we
at it
say
that way. We're
Right.
talking about the gross 5 elements. So when you see space, that is space. When you talk about air, that is air. Then when you see the fire, that is the fire element. Now suppose you try to say acid and you say, what is acid? Which of these? Acid is not a bhutani, it is a bhautikam. It's not a bhutam, it's a bhautikam. It's an elemental. Acid has the power to burn, but it is also a liquid, isn't it?
Okay.
So that-
Medaji, may I say something?
Yeah,
May I say something for the question raised?
yeah.
For the water gross element, the water particles have weight, mass, that earth aspect of it. And between the molecule, there are air space also, that is air element. Like that we can, there is air also, bubbles form from air gathered from inside and outside. So like that, all the elements are there in all the aspects are there in each one. Like alloy, like she said,
for
not
space,
individual combination.
By this analysis, tell me how you will do it for space. How will you find the earth element in space? Or the air element in space? Or the fire element in space? No, that is not a correct analysis, because if you break open the water or if you try to break open the fire, you're not going to find it. This is just for your understanding sake, simply to understand that the visible elements that we see are just an alloy in this ratio. So don't take it literally that there is space between the water molecules. Then the question can come, a water molecule, can you even call it water? If you just have a single water molecule, can you even call it water? Okay, don't bring two prakriyas, it will cause confusion. Science is a different prakriya, Shastra is a different prakriya, and if you mix the two, it will only cause confusion.
Thank you.
Okay, so now let's see the last line, the concluding line of this chapter. Etebhyah panchīkrita panca mahabhūtebhyah
Panchīkrita
Green, please.
bhūtebhyah. It is visarga. Since we are stopping there, we have to end on visarga, not just bhya. It is bhyah. Sthūla shariram bhavati.
शरीरं भवति
Bhavati.
Okay. So this is the creation of the sthula shariram or the sthula bhautikani. Sthula shariram is nothing but a sthula bhautikani. It is nothing but a combination of the different elements, right? When you look at the body has the water element, it has the fire element, it has all the elements in some way or the other. And that is why the body, what we see, the physical body, is nothing but a combination of these 5 elements. So the author says, etebhyah, from among these. Now what is he talking about? The 5 gross elements. And he clarifies that by saying panchīkrita, the grossified pancha mahabhūtebhyah. From among the 5 grossified elements, sthula shariram bhavati. The physical body is born. In fact, most of the world that we see around us is an elemental. We cannot, directly say that it is only this or only that. Many times it is a combination of 2 or more elements. Okay, and that is called a bhautikani, and in that way the whole world is created, including all the physical bodies, including all the human bodies, animal bodies, everything. And then he concludes with the final line. He says, evam pinda brahmandayor aikyam sambhutam.
Evam
Pinda
Brahmadayoryam
bhutam
sambhutam.
bhutam.
Okay, so pinda means microcosm, brahmanda means macrocosm. So he says, in this way, the identity between the pinda and the brahmanda, the microcosm and macrocosm, is established. There is a lot of commonality, there is a lot of similarity between the microcosm and the macrocosm, right? When you look at your physical body and you look at the whole world, there are a lot of similarities, right? One of the similarities, both of them are made up of the 5 elements. Yes. So that is why the world is called as prapancha. You've heard this word, prapancha? The world is referred to as prapancha. The pancha is indicating the 5 elements, the pancha bhutani. Okay, so both the individual as well as the macrocosm, both are made up of the 5 elements, both are made up of matter principle, both are inert, both are constantly changing. So all these similarities are there, and in this way the identity, the connection between them is established. And with this we have finished the 3rd chapter of Tattva Bodha. Any questions before we start the 4th chapter?
Medhaji, may I?
Yeah.
What we said, every body is formed of the 5 elements. That means it is formed of these 5 alloy elements.
Yes, the sthula.
Sthula. In the combination of 5, not in the pure form of the 5 elements, but in the alloy form of the 5 elements.
No, tell me what is formed from the pure form, the subtle form.
Just we refer that Prithvi, Tej, Vayu, Akash, etc. But now we have seen that there is a panchakrita process.
Yes.
So the original form is different from what is before. It is a combination or the alloy.
Yes.
So what we see in the world in the matter form or in the body form contains that form only, no?
It is all what we can see, what is visible is all the alloy.
Yeah.
And what is the pure form, it cannot be seen.
Okay. Thank you.
But that doesn't mean that the tanmatras, that is a subtle, pure form, is not available in the body. It is available in the body. In what way?
That is the property, na? Shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha.
That is a property of those elements. But for the body, in what way is it available?
The grossified form, the panchikrit form.
Panchakrita is for body. I'm talking about the subtle 5.
That's the sukşma.
Jnanendriyas,
As
antahkarana,
the sukshma
karnendriyas.
shariram. The sukshma shariram is made up of the sukshma bhutani. That is what we spent the entire last class discussing. Okay.
That becomes the tanmatras, right?
That is also called as tanmatra. Okay. So those sukshma shariram, the sukshma shariram is made up of the sukshma bhutani. 5 subtle elements. Okay. Yes, June.
Omedaji.
Yeah. Hi.
So I had 2 questions. The first one is, what does the word bhautikāni stands for?
Bhautikani means elemental.
Is different from element?
Yes. Bhutani is element, bhautikani is elemental.
What is an elemental?
Elemental is a modified or a recombined element. Recombination of the elements gives rise to elemental.
Okay, thank you. And the second question is, so we have the 5 subtle elements, the 5 jnanendriyas, the 5 pancha pranas, and the 5 karma indriyas. So these 20 a component makes part of the subtle body?
19. The mind has only 4 parts.
At the antakaran. But okay, sorry, I count the subtle.
24.
Yes.
Plus the 5 subtle elements becomes 24.
Yes. So plus the five subtle elements, right?
Yes.
So how do we call this group of 24 things?
Tattvam, Chaturvimshati Tattvam is the name given in this text.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
So is bhautikāni a bit like alloy?
Bhautikani is also a kind of alloy.
Okay. And bhutāni is the real pure element.
Bhutani.
Bhutani, sorry.
Bhutam is the singular. Bhutani is plural. So Bhutam means element. Bhutani means elements.
Okay, thank you.
Singular, plural.
Thank you.
Yes, Sujata ji.
Medaji, so all those 24 elements, they are all temporary, not they are not satya, they are just mithya, they are temporary.
Yes.
Or they are permanent.
They are temporary.
Okay. Now in the last, since I didn't attend the online class the last Saturday, I just had a question that you said that out of the 5 sense organs, the inner instrument is born. Likewise, the 5 karmendriyas, out of the 5 karmendriyas, pañca prana is born.
No,
so
not the 5 organs. I said the 5 elements, the samashti elements, all the 5 elements together, the mind is born,
yes.
the pancha prana is born.
Yeah. So for the sense of the organs of action to work, don't you think mind is necessary for our hands or feet to act?
They're all connected. We are not denying the connection. We are seeing the creation. The creation is different from the connection.
They are all connected. So for our eyes or for the sense organs to work, mind is necessary. And for the sense of, for the organs of action to work, mind is equally important.
It is, but that is not what we are discussing here. We are discussing how they are born, how they are created.
Okay, yes.
So their relationship to each other is different from the way they are born, right?
Yes.
Oh, Medhaji, can you please explain again the difference between bhutani and bhautikani? I got a little confusion now.
Bhutam means element, singular. Bhutani means elements, plural. Then there is another word, bhautikam, which means elements, elemental. And then there is another word, bhautikani, which is elementals in plural. Bhutam is the 5 elements, the tanmatras, you can say. And the bhautikams are a recombination or a modification of the elements. So the elements are like the building blocks. They recombine and they form the elementals.
1 minute, please. So here, when we are saying bhutani, we are talking of the 5 elements, the sukşma bhutani. And when we are speaking of the sattvic aspect and rajasic aspect of these 5 elements, we are saying sukşma bhutani and sukşma bhautikani. So the bhautikani is the one which is the action one, and the bhutani is the sattvic aspect of it. So how did the elements and elemental become in this?
No, there are different things. The first is bhutam, the 5 elements. Okay, subtle elements. They are called tanmatras. Tanmatras from now on. Okay, tanmatras are there. From the sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic aspect, each thing is born. They are all alloys, basically. Okay, meaning they're all a modification of these tanmatras, some recombination or something, and modification, and these are born. From the sattvic aspect, what is born?
The Antakaran and the Jnanendriyas.
Karana and Jnanendriyas. From the Rajasic aspect,
The Karmendriyas and the Panchaprana.
Karmendriyas and Panchaprana. Now, these are called bhautikāni. They are referred to as elementals. That is, they are a recombination of those tanmatras because they are born from that in a kind of a modified way or a recombined way. Okay, then from the tamasic aspect, what is born?
Tamasic aspect is the all the gross body. The
Gross?
the sthūla bhutani and sthūla bhautikani.
Yes. First, the sthula bhutani is born. The sthula elements, the 5 gross elements are born.
Panchikrita, that 50% plus 12.5%.
Yes, those are born. Now, if you see, that is also an alloy. That is also a recombination and modification of these 5. So, really speaking, that is also a bhautikani. But that itself acts as a building block for the rest of the creation, right?
Okay.
And so that is why we call that sthula, pañca, bhutam, and from that you get the further bhautikani, which is the rest of the world.
Okay, thank you.
So everything that comes out of these tanmatras is really speaking an alloy. Okay, so 2 of them are the sukşma shariram, and the third one is the pañca mahabhutani.
Right, now I understand. That's why in the sattvic aspect, we have from the space, we have something, then from the air, we have something. So the sattvic aspect is a combination of all the elements of the 5.
Yes. Okay. All right. So with this, the 3rd chapter is done. And now we are ready to move to the 4th chapter of Tattva Bodha. And 4th chapter is in fact the most important, the very crucial part, the crux of Vedanta. Okay, so this is a very, very important topic. Now, before we start into the technical part of it, we will understand this example, what is on the screen, which is the sun and the mirror example. Okay, now it's a very beautiful example because it fits in almost perfectly with what we are trying to understand. And if you can understand this example very, very well, then the rest of it will become very easy. Okay, so pay attention and try to follow this example. It's very simple, but follow it carefully. Okay. Now, so in the image, you see there is a mirror. And in the mirror, there is an image of the sun. And is there also an original sun, the real sun somewhere?
Yeah,
Where is the real sun?
in the sky.
In the sky. Okay, so there's a real sun in the sky. There's a mirror. And there's the image of the sun, the reflection of the sun in that mirror. Okay. So there are 3 things basically: sun, mirror, reflection. 3 things. Okay. Now, tell me, between the mirror and the sun, which produces its own light?
The sun.
Sun itself.
The sun produces its own light. Can the mirror produce its own light?
No.
No, it doesn't. But have you seen these movies or these, these techniques where people in the sea, they use a small mirror and they flash it. They just turn the mirror and then there's a flashing light that comes on that mirror. And they use this as a signal or to communicate. So you may have seen in the movies, people do this. So now, is the mirror acting as a source of light in that case?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. But is it its own light?
Reflected.
No.
No. It is not its own light. So where is the light actually coming from? The real source of the light?
From the sun.
From the sun, right? The real sun is the real source of light. And in the mirror, it is just reflected there. But in that process of reflection, this mirror also can be used as a source of light. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so suppose you have a dark room and there's no way for sunlight to enter. Suppose you set up a mirror outside so that the sun reflects on that mirror and the light falls inside. Now the mirror acts as a source of light. It is not its own light. It is borrowed light or it is reflected light. The original light is from the sun. Do you agree? And do you understand all of this?
Yes.
Okay. So the sun is the only real source of light. What the mirror does is simply borrows or simply reflects the light. And in the process of reflecting, it appears as though the mirror has its own source of light. But really, the mirror doesn't have its own source of light. It is only borrowing sunlight. Okay, so only the sun has its own luminosity. Mirror is not self-luminous, but because it borrows sunlight, it appears as though the mirror is luminous by itself. This is point number 1. Do you understand and is this okay? Mirror
Yes.
has no real luminosity. It only borrows light from the sun. Point number 1. Then point number 2. Suppose there are 6 mirrors. How many reflections will you have?
6.
6 reflections, right? But how many suns are there? Original suns?
Only one.
Only one sun is there. But now because there are 6 mirrors, you have 6 reflected suns. Okay. And because of 6 reflected suns, it appears as though there are 6 luminous mirrors, right? Each mirror seems to have its own luminosity. It acts like it's its own source of light. But actually, all 6 of them are borrowing from the same one original sun. Okay. Is this clear?
Yes.
6 mirrors, 6 reflections, and therefore it looks like 6 luminous mirrors, but really speaking, only one sun, only one source of light. Then the next point. Suppose you have a mirror that is little small and dirty. How is the reflection in that mirror?
Distortion.
Not very clear.
Not clear, it's a little dull, and the reflected sun also appears very small in that mirror, right? Now suppose you have another mirror which is very big, very clean, very bright. How is the reflected sun in that mirror?
Very clear.
Very clear.
Very clear. You'll get a very nice big image, very clear image. Now, has anything happened to the original sun?
No.
No. But in the mirror, they appear different. The reflections appear different. But the original sun is untouched and unaffected. Correct?
Yes.
So this distortion that comes in the reflection, which does it belong to? Does it belong to the sun or does it belong to the mirror?
Belongs to the mirror.
It belongs to the mirror. Why? Why do we say it belongs to the mirror?
Because the original sun hasn't changed anything.
Yes, the original sun hasn't changed. And because of the nature of the mirror, the reflection is different. Okay, so whatever distortion appears in the reflection, it only belongs to the mirror and never to the original sun. Is this clear?
Yes.
The original sun does not change. All distortions are only belonging to the mirror. Okay. Next. Now this is a little bit physics based. Okay, so Some of you may enjoy and some of you may not. All right. So in deep space, in outer space, is there light or no light?
Yeah, many light.
There is light. Okay. For example, the distance between the sun and the earth. If you see photos, it is shown as black, like dark, right? But we know that light is traveling from the sun till the earth. But in between, it is dark and only the earth is lit up. Right? Why is this?
There are no dust.
There are no reflecting
Reflected.
surfaces.
There's no reflecting medium in between the sun and the earth.
In the space, there is no reflecting medium. There is nothing. Okay, if you have background noise, I ask you to stay on mute because it will disturb the class and also the recording. And if you want to speak, just unmute and go back to mute. Okay, otherwise there will be a lot of disturbance. Okay, so in between the sun and earth, there is no object that can reflect the light. The first object that comes that can reflect the light is the earth itself. That's why the earth appears bright. Earth appears as though it has light. But in between, even though there is light, we cannot see. Why we cannot see? There is no medium for reflecting. So in fact, all the light that we can see is always reflected light. Any perceptible light is always reflected light. Okay, pure light as such cannot be seen. So this is a very nice Vedantic as part of it, those who can get it. We will discuss in detail later, but those who can appreciate the Vedanta part of it, pure light you can never see. All the seen light is only reflected light. Okay, is this clear till now? Till here, you're understanding how light works and how the mirror works.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, the next point is this. Does every object reflect light?
No.
No.
Yes.
We can say yes, but cannot be visible.
All the objects that we can see, we can only see them because they are able to reflect light. Okay. So what is so special about a mirror then?
Mirror is a perfect.
It reflects the source of light.
No, it reflects what it got.
Mirror is a perfect reflecting medium. It reflects the light almost 100%, almost as it is. And that is why we take mirror as an example here. But one thing to remember is that all the objects do reflect light, but they reflect light in a in some other distorted way. Okay, so this also we can just keep in mind, and we'll see the relevance a little later. So what the reflection or what light reaches us is nothing but a somewhat distorted light, because every object absorbs some light and reflects the rest of the light. Okay, so it is kind of a distortion. Only the mirror is a perfect reflecting surface. It reflects everything. And so that is why we're using it as an example. But that doesn't mean that other objects don't reflect light. They do, but in a distorted way. Okay, till now, is it clear? And are there any questions?
Medhaji, in physics, it is said that there is complete absence of light in the black body experiment.
Yeah, we are not talking about those things. We're just using
Okay.
light to understand certain features that we will come across later. We are just
Okay.
understanding that. Okay, till now, any questions? Okay. Now we'll see this diagram. And you see on top what is written? Brahman or original consciousness, what we call as OC. Okay, this is like the sun. So you see there's a diagram also, like looks like a sun. And then there are 6 mirrors. And what is each mirror? The first mirror is the gross body of the jiva, the individual. Then there is a subtle body of the jiva, sukşma shariram. Then there is a causal body. Then at the universal level, okay, we are seeing on the side of the totality, the gross universe, subtle universe, and causal universe. So these are like the 6 mirrors. So if you have one sun and 6 mirrors, how many reflections should be there? 6 reflections, right? So those are the reflections. What you see over here are the reflected entities, the reflection in the mirror, which is RC1, RC2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, RC means reflected consciousness. What is the original? OC, original consciousness, which is nothing but Brahman. And this is RC, the reflected consciousness. What is it reflecting on? Some medium, some mirror. So the reflecting medium is called RM. The reflection in that is called RC. And the original is OC. And what are the names of the RM? Gross body, subtle body, causal body, gross universe, subtle universe, and causal universe. So on the left side, we have the microcosm. On the right side, we have the macrocosm. So till now, is this clear? Now we have come back to Vedanta, okay? We have left physics and we are back to Vedanta. So any questions about this? Because next class we will be discussing in detail about these RC and RM and OC. Okay, it's all clear. So this week you can do mananam on the mirror and sun, and also try to remember these names. OC is original consciousness, RM 1, 2, 3, and RM 4, 5, 6. Try to, if you can, memorize this chart. It will help you in trying to understand all the concepts later. So for today, we will stop and we will continue this topic from the next class. Yes, any questions? Or we can conclude. Okay, let's conclude with the final prayers. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Medhaji.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Medhaji.